Cheers to the end of the year, everyone. There's vodka in this. So I cycled through about 4 or 5 different videos before I decided to just do the lists and leave the year at that, mostly because I've had no motivation to do literally fucking anything. So here we are. I did record a 5 worst albums of the year video a couple days ago, but considering that I didn't choose to listen to albums that I knew were going to be bad for the most part, that video came out kind of dog shit. So instead, we're just going to go straight into the positives with the 40 best songs of the year today. Tomorrow I'll record the best albums, that's the word I'm looking for, and then I'll upload them within a day of each other, hopefully, if I get this out in time. A couple notes before we get started. On my Twitter, I posted a picture of my 20 favorite songs of the year like a week ago, and kind of implied that this really wasn't going to change, and yeah, that was a bit of a fucking lie. It hasn't changed very much, don't worry, but there was a few things that I reconsidered that led me to changing that portion of the list, so just keep that in mind. It's not going to be a one-to-one example. And the other thing is, initially I was going to exclude songs that came out as singles in the year prior, but then I realized I don't want to fucking do that, so I'm not doing it. They're here if they came out in 2019 or not. Let's get started. If I have something more to say about the track, I'll say it. If I don't, then I'll move on. Placements really don't matter in terms of how much I say about the track, so let's get started with number 40. At number 40, we have Lil Scammer That Could by Guapdad 4000 featuring Denzel Curry. Number 39, we have 98 Sabres with Westside Gunn featuring a bunch of Griselda members. And 38, we have Shameika by Fiona Apple. There are a lot of other songs I could have chose from this album, but Shameika was the most fun to me, so that's why I went with it. Number 37, we have Mirage by Chris Keys and Quelle Chris. Number 36, we have God Is Perfect by Freddie Gibbs. He talks his shit on this track. He has an amazing flow. There's really nothing to dislike about it. Number 35, we have Grass by Red Veil. He's someone that I think has a lot of potential, especially considering his age, and I'm really excited to see where he goes in his career. Number 34, we have Pac-Man by the Gorillaz featuring Schoolboy Q. Number 33, we have Dragonball Durag by Thundercat, incredibly fun song. Number 32, we have Baptize by Spillage Village. While the individual members could probably do something better than the entire album as a whole, I still enjoyed it a lot, and this track is a very good example as to why. Number 31, we have Fuel by Black Thought with, I think, Portugal the Man. At number 30, we have Spurs 3 by Conway the Machine. As you'll come to find out, especially in my next video, my opinions on this album did change a fair bit. I like it a lot more than I did. Number 29, we have Happen to Me by Beanie. It's a very simple and effective guitar riff that kind of guides its way through the whole project, and I think overall it does a lot to enhance her particular vocal style. At number 28, we have Omens and Totems by Rap Ferreira. I really love the way this track kind of feels like it gets more and more collected and less disjointed as the track goes on. At the beginning, it feels a lot more free-flowing, but as the track goes on and the drums start to come in, his flows become a lot more rigid and more akin to what you would expect from a typical rap performance. At number 27, we have Terrence Martin and Company with the track Pig Feet, one of the best political statements of the year, especially considering the time period of the year when it came out, when Black Lives Matter and ACAB and all that was getting the most headline attention. At number 26, we have Young Abel with his track Blinding Lights. This is almost exactly what I was talking about when I mentioned the 2019 single shit earlier. At number 25, we have the incredibly off-kilter, glitchy Diet from Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats. At number 24, we have The Sky Is Falling by Oceanator, one of the rougher tracks in here, especially in terms of production, but the songwriting is so strong that you don't even notice. At number 23 is Smut by Duasala. I really enjoyed this whole EP, and I probably could have put any track on it if I really wanted to, but Smut fits the best because, in my opinion, it's the most complete feeling song here. Like, Cat Scratch is such a great song, but it's not even 2 minutes long. So I think in terms of choosing a track off this project, I think Smut is the best option. At number 22, we have Weeping Birch by Dan Deacon. At number 21, we have My Future by Billie Eilish. This song feels so simple, so classically 80s. It's very nice and untraditionally optimistic for Billie Eilish, but that's not an unpleasant change of pace in my opinion. At number 20, we have Racetrack by Beach Bunny. I'm not gonna go into it now, I'll talk about it more later, but I seem to like this album more than most people did. Not that people didn't like it, but it just kind of resonated with me a lot more, and I think this track doesn't make sense to put here except when you put it in the context of the rest of the album, where you have more poppier tracks like Promises, or even tracks that have an edgier side like Rear View. Racetrack kind of comes in this incredibly subtle, heartfelt, touching moment on this album and then it caps off with another great track. I think just an excellent moment. And even outside the context of the album, I can listen back to this track now because I've heard the album so many times and just revisit that hollow feeling that contrasts everything else. And it's just kind of a very down-to-earth, subdued but still very sad moment that is just honestly just very beautiful. Then in complete tonal shift we have the track Many Men by 21 Savage at 19. Metro really gives us an amazing piece of production on this track, and then 21 comes in and just perfectly rides the beat, has an amazing performance. The hook is one of the best on the album, which is kind of interesting considering it's not really written to be a traditional hook. The biggest credit I can give this track is that it made 21 click in my head, because I've since retroactively gone back on projects that I didn't care for as much, and while I still found flaws, I definitely enjoyed them a lot more, and I think this track is the biggest credit, because even Savage Mode 2 itself, I went back and listened to tracks before Many Men, and they resonated with me a lot more. So I think this might well be his best track, so number 19 is a good place for it. We're going to move on. Number 18, we have The Eye of the Needle by Ka. Ka is a very metaphorical rapper, but instead of being knee-deep in the metaphors, sometimes they get a little too contrived and they soak his whole body in a sense. I don't think this track is an example of that. I really don't think many tracks on this album are. I just think this is a solidly well-defined and written verse from Ka, and that's not even to mention the production on this song. Oh my god. I absolutely love the way the creepy piano part at the beginning leads way into this very odd percussive instrument, which beautifully complements the strings later in the track. Then there's a beat switch halfway through the song, which leads into this gorgeous cello part, and fuck, listen to the album. At number 16, we got Scott fucking Miscuddy with Solo Dolo III. I was on a Instagram DM with a bunch of my friends when this album dropped, and we were all listening to it at the same time. I don't know if they had, but I hadn't looked ahead in the track list. I don't really like doing that. So as soon as I saw Solo Dolo III, I kind of lost my fucking mind. Number 15, we got Brother Eye by The Flaming Lips. The way they integrated electronic music into this specific sound is so perfectly done. I love the contrast between the chorus vocals and the guitars behind it and the super glitchy synth part and the very subdued, quiet, almost electronic vocal performances that Wayne gives. Instead of ending on this huge note, it ends with this incredibly somber and subdued guitar part. It's just a beautiful track. At number 14, we have Yellow is the Color of Her Eyes by Soccer Mommy. I have no idea if that's how you actually play it, but I tried learning it today for the first time, so I love this little hammer-on that she adds at the end there. It's such a beautiful way to cap off this little riff. And if there's any way to describe this track accurately, it would be the word beautiful. Sophie just puts her heart and soul into this beautiful 7-minute track about her mother, and there's pretty much no justification for not even respecting the artistry behind it. Which, lucky for me, this track is exactly up my alley, which makes me, by my own standards, categorically not an idiot. So I'm glad to know that at least one standard I don't consider myself an idiot. Alright, at number 13, we have Mommy Dearest by Boldy James. Taking the lyrical content and combining it with Boldy's very typically raw and somewhat low-energy performance style, and then adding Sterling's amazing production on top of it, leaves such an emptiness inside. It's soul-sucking. That's the best way I can possibly describe this track. Some of the lines on this track, like the one about Boldy's little sister, are so full of pain and hatred, even to a certain extent, that just, it's such an amazing thing to experience. The amount of respect I have for someone like Boldy that's able to express these incredibly raw emotions, especially in lines like the one about his little sister, in such an artistically brazen and exceptional way, is mind-boggling to me. And Sterling Tolles just integrates these amazing cello and trumpet and vocal chorus and instrumentations onto this track in such a well-mannered and well-constructed, put-together way that just leaves me absolutely speechless every time I hear this track. At number 12, we have Kerosene by Yves Tumor. besides the fact there's amazing vocal performances and amazing guitar performances, this track just emits a level of grandioseness that just makes it one of the most entertaining, fun listens of the year. At number 11, we have Amine with Fetus featuring Injury Reserve. Stepogrog's death hit me harder than I expected it to, especially in the months preceding it. And hearing him on this track with Amine talking about his daughter that he unfortunately left behind, it hurts a lot. And not to mention, Richie's performance is amazing. Amine's performance is amazing. The beat is so well constructed. It's just such a phenomenal track. At number 10, we have my man Sufjan with the track My Rajneesh. You all know this album kind of let me down. I don't know why in God's fucking name he didn't include this track on the album itself, but as it stands right now, this is far and above the best work he's put out this year. At number 9, we have Perfume Genius with the track Whole Life. There are a lot of songs I could have put off this album, but each time I revisit it, the intro just stands out to me the most. I think it's so beautifully coordinated. I think his vocal performance is phenomenal. I love the way the instrumentation progresses. I just think it's the most thought out and well put together track on this album, and that's why it's going here. At number 8, we have The Butcher with One Way Flight featuring Freddie Gibbs. Hit-Boy did such an amazing job on this song, and I think his production, even overall on the project, brought the best out of Benny's performances. Not only does his performance and lyricism itself sound as raw as ever, but the way the soul elements are integrated into this track just gives me a sensation that I really haven't felt listening to a Griselda track before. The way it just crescendos of, oh, that was such a great verse. Oh, that was such a great verse. Holy shit, now Freddie's here. How did we get to this point? It just always leaves me with a very, very good feeling inside, and I think that's why it deserves to be here. At number 7, we have the incredibly critically acclaimed Phoebe Bridgers with the track Savior Complex. I just love the atmosphere of this track with the beautiful violin passage in the middle and the overall ambiance of the song with all these additional effects on top of this great guitar performance and her gorgeous vocals. It's one of those instances where I'm like, this is a very sad and heartfelt song, but it makes me feel good listening to it. And I always love songs like that. At number 6, we got good old Kevin with the track Posthumous Forgiveness. This is the other main example of 2019 track that I wanted to include because it's a good track. If I did not allow this, I do not think there would be a Tame Impala track on this list, so Tame Impala fans, thank me later. This track feels very personal to me, like Kevin is getting a large burden off of his chest by making this song. You can tell a lot of emotion went into it, which is why I think it feels more like a rock lonerism inner speaker track than a lot of the stuff on the album. At first, I really wasn't huge on the last 2 minutes, but I've grown to appreciate it a lot more as time's gone on. I don't know if I can definitively say this is his best track, but it's definitely up there. At number 5, we have Balds, the Denzel Curry remix, specifically by Peggy. I like Peggy, don't get me wrong, but I love Denzel. Like, he adds so much to this track. He just keeps going, and he keeps talking about all these like sensations he feels, all these emotions he feels, but in such a high energy, high octane way that you could just kind of ignore that entirely. It's just an amazing song that marks the 3rd track with Denzel Curry on it on this list. Go listen to his shit if you haven't. Next on the list, we have At the Door by The Strokes. Despite the namesake, this is one of the least Strokes-like tracks I've ever heard from them. In typical Strokes fashion, this vocal performance fucks, but beyond that, whereas most tracks are very simple guitar patterns and arpeggios and riffs and whatnot, this one takes a much different approach where it's synth-oriented, and then as it transitions into the chorus, there's guitar added, but that's still not the focus. There's no drums driving this track, none of that. It's incredibly dense, but also incredibly bare bones at the same time, and I have a lot of appreciation for that. Ode to the Mets was also a very strong contender for this list, but this one just edges it out for me personally. At number 3, we have Chester Watson with the track Daydreams. While Chester's not exactly the most technically proficient rapper-producer out there, he knows how to create an amazing atmosphere in his tracks. Citing this track specifically, the main melody instrumentation is beautiful, everything is soaked in this almost shoegaze level big room reverb. While I could understand someone that would consider his performance mumbly and unengaging, I think it fits in perfectly with this little nook that he's created for himself. And this is very well reflected in the lyrical content he talks about. It's all very introspective with some very hard-hitting lines. And then Duasala comes in with this super haunting, eerie, and gorgeous vocal performance for the chorus. Chester's almost like a hypnotist in the way that he performs. It's so slow and methodical, but so enchanting at the same time. So that was number 3. Number 2 is Mac Miller with the track Good News. This track expresses a dilemma that a lot of people experience, myself included, in not wanting to share negative things with people, because not only is that not what they want to hear, but why bother if they can't help you? Why express these things to these people if they have no way of solving or even affecting it other than their presence? That incredibly relatable message, surrounded by the tragedy of, rest in peace, what happened to Mac Miller, only serves to accentuate the emotions of this track. John Bryan's production on this track is stunning, to say the least, and it's a perfect tonal fit for what Mac is saying. And despite being so high up on the list, there's really not much I can say about this track that other people that Mac Miller has inspired and touched further than me haven't already said. So I'm just going to keep moving on to a track that people really don't talk about that much. So cap off this very long recording section, we have the amazing, the phenomenal, the breathtakingly beautiful Terminal B by 070 Shake. Why does no one fucking talk about this song? The synths are beautiful. Shake's performance is amazing. The structure of this song is so unconventional and well done at the same time. The drums are on one hand very sparse, but at the same time so incredibly integral to establishing the aesthetic and tones of this song. It's not the most lyrically dense track, sure, but honestly, I don't fucking give a shit. The lyrics do a good job, they serve their purpose, and in terms of a track like this, where the sonic and atmospheric elements are much more important, it doesn't matter much to me. A big reason why this track is here is because it was very helpful in me coping with the anxieties and the stresses of quarantine and school and all this nonsense, and I just can't really thank it enough for doing that. The instrumentals and the vocal performance touch me on a very deep emotional level that might not be as deep as some of the tracks earlier on this list, but I can never get this song out of my head. I'm never not in a mood to listen to this track, and that's why it's number 1 on this list. And that's going to be the end of today's video. Remember, tomorrow, hopefully, I'm also going to have a video done talking about the 40 best albums of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. As you probably couldn't tell, I only featured 1 song per artist. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you thought, agree, disagree, call me a dipshit, whatever you would like. I'm always happy to discuss things with you guys. I'm always much happier both watching and creating content about things that I enjoy, which is probably the only reason why I actually made this video, because I'm gonna be honest, I haven't had a lot of motivation to do really anything. So hopefully this will kind of kickstart me a little bit, get back into trying to write music and just be generally more productive in terms of my schoolwork. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good 2021.